Welcome and hello from Alex, with a story from r/PettyRevenge, where a new mother stands her ground against her irresponsible father who wants unsupervised visits with his granddaughter. Coming up next is a story from BessRuby. My dad is claiming I am keeping his granddaughter from him. I have a beautiful 2.5-month-old baby. My dad started fighting with me because I refused to leave her alone with him until he shows me he can take care of her, change diaper, feed from bottle, warm up breast milk, etc. We had a huge fight. There was yelling, and when I told him the next day that I can't do this anymore because it's preventing me from caring for my baby properly, he complained that I am putting her over my relationships with him. So I told him she is more important, and I will talk to him when she doesn't need me 24/7, and blocked him. My mom came over a few times the next week, and eventually asked if she can come over with my dad so he can see her. I said yes. He came over, threw a fit that she's asleep, and left. The next day I was at my parents' house with her while my dad was at work. I was downstairs in the living room with her when he came back home early. My mom offered him to wash his hands and hold her, something we also fought over, and he just stopped angrily upstairs. And when mom went to talk to him, he apparently wanted her to bring my baby to him without me. I obviously refused, because she's so small and I don't trust him even with mom's supervision, and he is now claiming I am keeping her away from him. That whole situation sounds incredibly stressful. Your dad's behavior is way out of line. A newborn is a huge responsibility, and it's perfectly reasonable to want to be comfortable with someone's skills before leaving a baby with them. It's fantastic that you're prioritizing your daughter's needs. She absolutely comes first right now. Honestly, good for you for blocking him after that fight. You shouldn't have to deal with that kind of negativity, especially during such a precious time. Maybe your dad is just feeling hurt and confused, but that doesn't excuse his actions. He needs to understand that earning your trust takes time. Offering to help with basic tasks like diaper changes is a great first step. If you do decide to let him have some supervised time with the baby, take it slow and be present at first. There's no shame in that. Eventually, as he proves himself responsible, you can relax a bit more. In the meantime, focus on your little one and lean on your supportive mom. This is a time to bond with your daughter, and no one should make you feel bad about that. Coming up next is a story from Green Sweatshirt, entitled Dad Wants Kid to Ride My Dog. This happened several years ago, and it still makes me angry whenever I think about it. My dog was not feeling well, and we were sitting in the waiting room of the vet's office. A family sat down across from me, and the father saw my dog and told his daughter, who looked like she was about 2 or 3 years old, to go meet Lassie. Everything was fine until she decided to start climbing onto his back. I said, "No, he has arthritis and doesn't feel well. Please don't do that." The girl's father jumped up and ran over and started screaming so close to my face that I could feel his spit. He said I had no business bringing a dog like that in here if it wasn't good with kids, and there was something wrong with me if I wouldn't let a Lassie dog play with kids. I told him that he has arthritis and is not feeling well, and I did not want her trying to ride him. He verbally abused me, female, baby boomer, some more, and told me to take the dog out of there, the vet's office, if it wasn't okay for his daughter to play with him. My dog was perfectly well behaved. He always is. I was trying to protect him. I looked over at the vet techs hoping they would step in, but they were on the phone. He said, "Here, Lassie. Here, girl," then picked up his daughter and held her over my dog to try to place her on my dog's back. I grabbed my dog's leash and pulled him out from under her just in time, and the kid started to whine. I said, "He's a boy, and he's here to see the vet. He is not a horse, and he's not here for your kid to ride." This resulted in a lot more verbal abuse from him, and I kept wishing the vet techs would get off the phone and do something. He was still berating me when a vet tech called my name and led me and my dog into an exam room. My dog was treated for gastroenteritis and recovered just fine. Later, Opie actually posted an update on the story. My dog is doing fine. His arthritis bothers him sometimes, but he is enjoying life. Fortunately, I never saw that entitled father again. I still get steamed whenever I remember him. That entitled dad sounds like the absolute worst. It's infuriating that someone would be so disrespectful, especially in a vet's office. Good for you for standing your ground and protecting your pup. It sounds like your dog is lucky to have someone who cares about him so much. It's a shame the vet techs weren't around to intervene, but at least they got you and your dog into the exam room quickly. Hopefully, that experience didn't discourage you from taking your dog to the vet in the future. It's totally understandable that you still get steamed thinking about it. That kind of behavior is outrageous, but at least you have the satisfaction of knowing your dog is healthy and happy, And that jerk of a dad probably learned a valuable lesson about boundaries, hopefully. Coming up next is a story from tyfromtarget, and if you like the video so far, don't forget to like the video. It only takes a second and helps me out a lot. Mom ruined my credit. Well, recently I checked my credit report. It seems I have a Capital One account credit card with a $3,000 balance racked up on it. Bear in mind I never opened this account. I don't really talk to my mother anymore due to life things. But coke to find out my mother used my SSN to open a card with her and me on it. She's notorious for being bad with money. That's why I tried my best to do the opposite of her. Now my credit score is getting dinged because of the high balance on the card. Not sure how to go about getting this resolved because she has no way to clear it fast enough. If there's any way to clear it in my name so I can get back on the path of good credit again. Not sure if identity theft report or fraud is the best way. Thanks. That sounds like a total nightmare. Identity theft is a serious issue. And it's awful that your mom would do something that could hurt your financial future. It's good you caught it early though. In my opinion, reporting the situation as identity theft is the way to go. That will put a block on things and hopefully prevent further damage. You should also freeze your credit to make sure no one else can open accounts in your name. Dealing with your mom sounds like a whole other can of worms. Honestly, that might need a separate conversation. But for now, focus on protecting your credit and getting this fraudulent account cleared from your report. There are resources available to help with identity theft, so don't be afraid to reach out for assistance. This situation stinks, but it can definitely be resolved. Coming up next is a story from Iminthetoiletrn. Told my entire family that they should not concern me with who I fuck. Posted this on another subreddit but was removed, so posting here with additional info on the comments. I, 18 male, was in a high school relationship for over 4 years when I was 13-17 years old. It was highly toxic. During these times together, I was miserable. Her, 19 female, family hated me so bad for no apparent reason. However, my family really liked this girl, really liked her. They would always ask about her, and I guess it was nice having your family like your partner, but at the time I was hiding the fact that I was completely miserable with her. My dad, 49 male, liked her because she's also a Catholic. My stepmom, 34 female, liked her because she can cook. My little sisters liked her because she had mini poms she would bring with her every time she comes over. The only one who understood me was my mom, 45 female. I live with her, so I guess she could tell whenever I get stressed because of the relationship, and she could see that I was not really happy with her. Although my mom never told me to break up with her, just that to make sure I was happy myself. I broke up with her, long story short. Fast forward a few months later to last October, and I met a new girl. One thing to describe her: she genuinely makes me the happiest person on earth due to multiple things. My mom could tell that she makes me really happy, and I just look better than when I was with my ex. However, the more I talk about her to my dad and stepmom, the more I realize they may not be as happy with my newfound girl. They would not listen to my stories about her like they would excitedly get about my ex. But then my dad had told our entire family about how he doesn't like this new girl, and even got his brother, my uncle, to try get me to stay away from her. They tried setting me up with multiple girls, and every time we go out together and there's a girl that seems to be my age, they would try to get me to walk up to her to get her number and to just hang out. Complete disregard of my current girlfriend. The thought that I was that desperate for girls, and that I just don't like being chosen who I am with, which I think is my complete choice, just angered me. Even my boomer grandpa told me he's okay with anyone so long as they make me happy. We were having dinner a few weeks ago with the whole extended family, and when we were at the dinner table they told me to find someone better and someone who fits me better. After dinner we went to the living room and sat there. They, dad and uncle, cornered me again about girls and how I should find a better one. That got me to my breaking point, and I just stood up and said, "Why does it concern you who I do and do not fuck?" And trust me, I did emphasize on the F word. Then the whole room became quiet until my grandpa laughed and told my family that they should not care too much about this stuff. My dad brought me to the yard and we had a massive argument, and he told me I had embarrassed him in front of the whole family and that I should go home and think about what I had done. So I drove home, and so that was it. I haven't talked to him or went back to his house. So, what do? Wow, that whole situation sounds incredibly frustrating. Your family totally overstepped their boundaries. It's fantastic that you have your mom and grandpa on your side, though. Honestly, good for you for standing your ground. You're an adult, and you get to choose who you date. It's not up to them to play matchmaker or decide who's good enough for you. Maybe your dad was just trying to look out for you in a clumsy way, but using guilt and manipulation isn't the answer. Hopefully he'll come around eventually. In the meantime, focus on your awesome girlfriend and the people who support your choices. Maybe write a letter to your dad when you've had some time to cool down. Explain how his behavior made you feel, and emphasize that you just want his support, not his control over your love life. Coming up next is a story from Upbeat Strawberry 407. I'm going crazy. Hi everyone. I, 25 female, have read through a ton of similar posts on here, but wanted to write my own as I feel like I am going crazy and need some external opinion. My parents divorced when I was 2, and my dad has always done his best to be in my life. My older brother and I used to love spending the day with him every Saturday. At some point, when I was around 12 years old, my older brother stopped coming. My mom and dad had some bad custody, child support fights early on, and my older brother sided with my mom. I tried to stay neutral to avoid hurting anyone. From there, until college, I would visit my dad alone. He wasn't too pushy about texts, calls, but would always cross into overprotective. He would text me almost daily to check in, and on the few instances I forgot to answer, out at a friend's, fell asleep early, was sick, he'd text my mom and demand to know that I was okay. A few times, my mom was asleep as well and didn't answer, and he called the police to my mom's house in the middle of the night. Our relationship started to get really bad right before college, and we were fighting all the time, but he always attributed it to me being a hormonal teenager. I think it was because I was struggling for more independence. My first year of college, he lost his high-paying job and all his income. He had to move in with his mom, my grandma, to a different state, where they still live together now. She is immunocompromised and he takes care of her, so they both have essentially not left the house since COVID. He is set on looking for virtual work and has been doing nothing but studying daily, sleeping weird hours, and applying for jobs for the last 5 years. Not even exaggerating, they don't do much else. I haven't seen either of them in 5 years, and he says he isn't ready for me to visit because he is ashamed of the situation. Our current schedule is as follows. We speak on 2 times a week on a set day and time for 1 hour each. Both of these calls end up going way over an hour, and he guilts me when I try to wrap up even though I have things to do around the house, fitness classes, dinner to make, etc. During this call, I am not allowed to walk, clean, cook, be outside, or do anything besides sit and listen. If he hears any noise in the background, he gets angry. When I try to push back on this, he says that I probably waste time on 100 other things and can set aside 2 hours, or more, a week to speak. We don't have much to talk about as I don't like to tell him about my life. He likes to debate or turn everything I mention to him into a negative or life lesson. I have been in an amazing relationship for almost a year that I haven't had the energy to tell him about, because I know he is going to find a million things wrong with it, e.g., he is a different religion, which is apparently the worst thing in the world, even though I am not religious and neither are my boyfriend or dad. We talk about my job occasionally, but I am not interested in climbing the corporate ladder or learning the games he wants me to play. He doesn't have anything happening in his life either, as all he does is study for open roles he finds. He usually spends our phone call talking about the mistakes he's made in life and about how I should avoid them, current events and politics, and things going on in the career world. I am not really interested in the things he talks about and don't want to follow in his footsteps. So I mostly just stare at the wall, listen for 1.5 hours, and try to sound interested. In addition to these calls, he also wants me to text him within 15 minutes of arriving to work, 2 days a week, different from the above days, and text him when I am home from work before 6 p.m. If I am running late, I have to call him and let him know. For reference, my commute is a safe and easy 20 minutes ride. I also have to answer his daily nighttime check-in text asking me how things are going, if I have any questions, if I am home, etc. Within 30 minutes. I am not on my phone often and missed responding on time to a few of them, which led to some really bad fights. We eventually settled on me texting him myself every night, once I was home and not planning to leave. Lastly, he wants me to let him know if I go out on the weekends and text him when I am home, which I think is fair. One important thing to note is that when I first moved into my own place a couple years ago to be near work, he had very strict rules about where I had to live. Dorm and building with cameras, safe part of the city, etc. All reasonable, but expensive. I was doing well for myself, but couldn't afford those amenity buildings on my own. Think NYC, where you can find affordable apartments in okay areas on a decent entry-level salary, but not the amenity buildings in very nice areas. My dad agreed to cover the rest, and did so for about a year and a half. A few months ago, right after I resigned for another year, he told me ran out of money. I've been putting all the extra on my credit card, which he promises to pay back once he gets a job. I don't know when that will be, and of course will not be resigning unless things turn around, but I'm kind of stuck in this situation. I wish I could say that this is the only reason I want to keep the relationship with him. Money is not worth a bad mental state. I can't say that it doesn't make me anxious, but I could end our relationship and walk away with a few thousand in debt. The truth is that I feel bad for him, and he makes me feel guilty if I don't put him first. My parents are European, and he says it's a very American mentality to not put your family first, that I should want to call him often and should feel bad if I know he is worrying about me, that if I can text him to let him know that I am okay, that I should. I've tried to ask that we cut back on communication and how much he relies on my responses, but he calls me selfish. For reference, I have an excellent relationship with my mom and her side of the family. I call her to chat almost daily and we talk about all the things in her life and in mine. She knows and has met my boyfriend, and she has my location so she always knows when I am safe. She doesn't force anything on me and doesn't turn everything negative or into a lesson, so I love telling her about my life and keeping her updated. When I try to explain this to my dad, he basically insinuates that if my mom isn't checking in on me regularly, she doesn't care. Even as I am typing this, I can see that it's not healthy, or is it? I don't know. I feel like I can't get an objective grasp on this. He says he is much better than most dads. Is this true? Is this a cultural thing? I just don't know what to do. I don't want to cut him off or end the relationship, because he doesn't have anything else, no other close friends or family besides his mom. I love him a lot. The financial tie doesn't help. It's easy to suggest setting a hard boundary, but he always follows with "so you're okay with knowing that I am stressing out, and there's something you can do to fix it, but you won't." Do I just say yes? I feel like I can't do this forever. I hate being attached to my phone and constantly anxious. I am reaching my breaking point. I really don't know what to do. Does anyone have a couple words of advice or confirmation either in support of my side or of my dad's side? Thank you in advance and sorry for the length. This whole situation sounds incredibly stressful. It's clear you care about your dad, but his behavior is definitely overstepping boundaries. The guilt trips and constant check-ins are manipulative. A healthy parent-child relationship shouldn't leave you feeling anxious and like you're constantly walking on eggshells. It's not selfish to want some independence and privacy. Here's the thing, good dads want their kids to be happy and thrive, and that means letting them spread their wings and make their own choices. Your dad might be lonely, but that's not your responsibility to fix. He needs to find healthy ways to cope and build a life for himself outside of you. As for the money, ideally you could get that resolved, but don't let that be the only reason you stay connected. If you do decide to take a break from the relationship, that's perfectly okay. You can explain that you need some space to live your own life and that you'll reach out when you're ready. There's no shame in prioritizing your mental health. You deserve to feel safe and secure, and it sounds like your mom provides that for you. Lean on her support system, and maybe even consider therapy to help navigate this complicated situation. That wraps up r/PettyRevenge. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to visit my Spotify channel, link is in the description, so you can listen to the best Reddit story while being outside, and remember to hit that subscribe button.